Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art. And today is Friday, November 17th, 2017. And as always, we'll do the weekly look back at last week's eBay auction results and talk about a few other things that are going on this week. One of the things I wanted to point out was that, and in case you missed it, if you come over to the Dealers and Auctioneers page and click on Bonhams, they have a sale coming up the end of this month on the 28th in Hong Kong, and they have some terrific things in it. If you haven't seen the catalog, I suggest you go take a look at it. We've uploaded it onto the site. It is quite an auction. They've got some great things in here, some fabulous jades at the very beginning of the sale. I'll get into this. Kongs. There's a very, very rare inscribed block right here. A beautiful, beautiful piece. It's a big, big plaque. It had come out of the Cunliffe collection a number of years ago, as well as some other terrific jades. Also, some very good Ming pieces have turned up here. Bonham seems to have scored themselves some great, great pieces, especially this boulder here, the Prince Yun Li jade boulder. Beautifully carved. It's got a big estimate, $640 to $1 million US. Spectacular quality, though. Absolutely fabulous with all the russet inclusions. Here's a detail of it. There's a good write-up on the piece as well. There's some good lacquer, some very, very fine enamel and jade pieces. This beautiful pair of stands, and so on. I urge you to go over and take a look at this. There's some really interesting things, and maybe the best imperial yellow robe we've seen all year. It's carrying an estimate of $130,000 to $190,000. It's a 19th century piece. It's a Jifu. It's late 19th, but really good, really good robe. So check that out, okay? And now let's see. We're going to head over to. One other thing I wanted to mention was we put a blog up today, a video blog rather, about this. This is a personal thing. Very good friend of ours' son. His name is Everest Crawford. He's a junior at Dartmouth College. His family are very close to a fellow who's a Sherpa in Nepal near Mount Everest, and he's doing a documentary about a school that this man started there. They didn't have any schools for the kids that lived in the rural districts, and he actually built a school a few years ago, and Everest is doing a documentary about it, hoping to raise awareness. They've gone from just having, they thought they'd have 5 or 10 kids. They now have 85 kids. The school is growing very rapidly, and they want to spread the word about it. They built this in Namche village, which has no roads, no anything. Everything had to be carried in. It's quite a story, and he's going to do a video about it, and take a look at the video. We also did a piece, there's a blog on the Bidamount blog site about it today, so please check that out, okay? And let's get started here. Here's last week's newsletter. There's some great things went through here last week, and take a look at them if you remember all of these items. Here they all are. And we're going to start over here first with this. This was a really nice set of late 19th century or mid-19th century inscribed Famille Rose cup and saucer. Beautiful quality, really lovely quality. They were being sold by Qing Period. He's the seller that has returned to eBay after a hiatus of a while. And here it is. And it brought $898. Really, really nice thing. And then we're going to move along over to, let's see here. That's for Josh. We'll get back to him in a few minutes. Was this Kong, this blue and white Kong, a nice one, probably late 19th century, but well done. It had been drilled in the bottom, but a nice old one. And it did very well. Even with a hole in the bottom and no rain mark, it still brought $2,281. It's a pretty good price for that. And it was a nice piece. Downsizing had this. He's a seller that gets some great things. They're down in Florida. And beautiful object. And this was another piece that Qing Period put up, this really elegant, big Famille June planter with a brown dressing dragon on it and turquoise ruyi heads. Elegant color combinations all the way around this. It was a nice thing. And it did very well. It brought $7,050. But it's quite a pot. And he, like I said, he gets good things. And here's another thing that he had up, a very, very fine, an unusual Daoguan a plant tray with these sort of archaic enamels on it with roux heads and the dragons and so forth. And this did quite well as well. It brought $1,775. The Jing period pretty much owned the week on here last week. He also had this very nice Kangxi charger with the big peony blossoms all over it. Nice color, and it did pretty well. It brought $1,935. It was 39 centimeters, though. That's a big charger. It's a nice big one. And then he also had this, a very nice Jiajing phoenix and a phoenix plate with cranes swooping around it and birds and this rocky outcropping. And it has sort of that nonsensical mark on the back that they often have. But a nice looking example. And it brought $1,525. Very attractive plate. And then there was this bronze, this rather early bronze. And I love the fact that it had these animal forms that would be upside down, to serve as the feet on it. Here's the interior of it, all right? Beautifully done, and even had a hole in it, all right? But just a terrific example. And it brought, I couldn't tell whether this was a cover, actually, or a basin. It could go either way, I suppose. But a beautiful early bronze, nicely worked, and it's probably 6th century or so, and it did quite well. It brought $665 for a very early bronze with a hole in it, and this was being offered also by Downsizing. And this was one of the better buys of the week. This was sort of a bargain. It was a rather nice armorial cup and saucer. It wasn't perfect. It had a couple of hairlines in it. Very good piece of armorial. And you don't often find the cup with the saucer with these elaborate English armorial crests on them. And it brought almost nothing, $69. So if you're an armorial collector and you didn't spot this, I'm sorry. But that was one of the better buys of the week. It was a heck of a good buy. Very nice. And then there was this flambe glazed washer. This was a good one. This was a nice old one. Here's the bottom of it. Probably a 19th century piece, judging by the glaze. But good quality glaze. Nice colors. Lots of color in it. A lot of color range in it. From light blue, very light blue, to very deep red. Really good. It pooled up nicely in the center. And it did pretty well. It brought $1,009. Not a big surprise. These are, as I always say, scholars' objects and brush washers, things like this are always in demand, and this was as well. And then there was this. This was another very good buy of the week for someone. It was a rather attractive Kangxi hunter and rider plate, beautifully done. It wasn't exactly perfect. It had a couple of hairlines in it, but when they're perfect, these bring $400, $500, $600. And this was a good buy for somebody that had a budget. It went for only $61. All right, it has two short hairlines, which are very faint, and that's not a bad buy. That's a good buy if you can't support a shell at $500 or $600 for every plate you want to pick up. And then there was this Tibetan bronze fragment. I love these things. I like it when there's sometimes just a hand. This was a nice looking one. And it was rather elegant the way it was broken, but nicely mounted on the stand, ready to go. And I think it was a very reasonable buy for someone. It was in the patina, the surface on it was pretty nice. And it went rather modestly, $346. Not a bad buy. Not a bad buy at all. All right. And then there was this little plate. This plate, the fellow that sold this contacted me. He had it, and he didn't think that it was probably period. It has a Yongchen mark on it, and the enamels on it look pretty clearly to be later. But interesting color combinations and interesting design. And I thought it would do pretty well, and it did. It brought $1,180. It's probably a late 19th century dish, but it had this Yongchen mark on it, which I think probably got some people excited. But I don't think it's a bad plate at all. It's rather nice. And then there were this nice big pair of sort of celadon ground with famille rose, and they'd been lamped, but a nice big pair of vases. I think these were around 20 inches or so tall, with these ibexes, these birds on the neck, pecking downward. And it did, let's see, about a big, $2,616. How big were these? Size matters. 17 inches. Okay, they were almost 20 inches. nice pair of vases, and went for a very good price. Get a good price for those. And now we're back to one of these. There was last week, as you recall, there was an extremely rare Western market 18th century export plate. Here's another one. Unfortunately, whoever photographed it didn't do this plate justice, because they let the glare take over the center of the plate in the photography. If you look at the edges, you can see what the colors really were. Down here on the left, you see this nice red, this nice green. Well, it looks like the light flashed right through the center of it, and he chose not to reshoot it. Let's see if there's a little better picture here. When you take your pictures, position your lights properly so you don't end up doing that to the piece, because I think it sort of hurt the value here on him. But at any rate, it did pretty well. It brought $676, but I think if it had been shot a little better, it probably would have brought another $300 or $400. And then Qing period also had these rather nice looking pair, Clair de Lune, but they're 19th century Qinlong marked vases. Pretty attractive. Had a slight glaze flaw under the rim here. If you look, you can see it. All right, and there's a little glaze fleck out here on the base. And they did very well. They brought $6,433, even though they weren't period. So that's a good sign for those of you who like Clair de Lune pieces out there. And then there was this rather nice Jin or Liao black glaze with iron rust spots on it. Rather attractive piece. And I thought this would do very well. And it ended up going, this is interesting, it went for $4,222, but the reserve wasn't met. Egmont Horn was selling it, and I was surprised that he didn't meet the reserve, because these types of jars turn up in in Christie's fairly often in this price range, in the $3,500 to $6,000 price range. Maybe he was selling it for someone and they wanted a big reserve on it, but that was a nice pot, good looking pot. It's too bad he didn't let it go. Maybe he couldn't. I'm not picking on him. All right, and then there's this nice pair of Wucai Kangxi plates that are selling on Sunday this week. These haven't closed yet. They're only up to about $73 for the pair. Good looking plates, okay, and you might want to check that out. The other thing you might want to also check out is that Josh Chamberlain, Juice 1499. We put it in the newsletter last week. He has a 200 lot auction starting tonight and tomorrow night, the 17th and the 18th. 100 lots will go up tonight, and 100 more lots will go up tomorrow night. All right, and then they'll close 10 days out. None of these things are reserved, and he's got some nice looking things in there. I wanted to quickly preview them. He emailed me some pictures, and there's some rather good things in here. A nice looking piece of cloisonne. There's some good Japanese lacquer. This is an example. It looks like the top of a very nice box. And there's a nice ink-worked fan. I couldn't see what the seal, there was a seal on the other end. I'll have to wait and see what this thing is. And a good bronze of a demon figure carrying a double gourd. And then three covered jars. A nice little, it looks like a candle set. Tibetan origin with the coral, but nice jade. Nice jade fittings on it. Big pair of jars. Nice pair of cloisonne pieces. This one a little dead up here, so maybe when you see the other side of it during the preview, they'll be able to be straightened out. Good looking little Ming bowl. Big pair of vases there. Nice deep green on those. I like those. Oh, and a painting. This one of these Chinese export paintings. This is not a pith painting. This is on paper, probably either English or Chinese paper of tea harvesting. And a pair of gilt-splashed bronzes, late Ming to early Qing. There's a lavender jade figure. There's a late Ming piece, possibly Jiajing, maybe Wan Li. And some silk, more silk, and so forth. So he's got a busy week coming up. And it's linked. It'll be linked off of his page on our site as well. So that's it for the week. It's been sort of busy around here. And we'll see how the things do over the coming weekend. We found some interesting things to put up as always. And thanks so much for taking the time. This video is a little shorter because we're behind today, and I've got to get to a bunch of things. But thanks for joining me, and do check out that video we did on the Nepalese school project. for our good friend the Crawfords here in Gloucester, and their good friend Sedum Chirpa over in Nepal. It's a well worth it thing to participate in, and if you could send $5 or $10, it would mean a lot to get this filming project underway. Okay, and have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next time. All right, thank you. Bye bye.